I wanted to speak briefly here about Obamacare once again. This is an issue that's now coming to the forefront over the next few weeks as we get ready to start to implement portions of it across the country. We're starting to see the implications of it. And I think there's so much coverage given to this as a partisan fight between Republicans and Democrats or liberals and conservatives, but I actually think this issue goes much further than that because it's impacting all Americans. I understand the president was here yesterday and individuals from the White House as well. According to press reports, they were here to reassure nervous Democrats about the implementation of Obamacare and what it could mean. And I understand why people are nervous about this bill. They have a right to be. For example, the exchanges, which is these healthcare exchanges that are supposed to, if you can't get insurance, you're supposed to go to and be able to buy insurance. They're not going as planned. Just yesterday, there was a news report that in Georgia, they've asked for an emergency extension because they won't be up and running by October 1st. We're in news reports of more people being pushed from full-time work to part-time work. The reason why, by the way, is because Obamacare says that if you have more than 50 employees at full-time status, there's certain rules you have to follow. They're going to cost you money. So we're starting to see evidence that people are being moved from full-time to part-time. Some major companies are announcing that they're moving more people to part-time. There's reports of impending rate increases. In my home state of Florida, just 2 days ago, the insurance commissioner announced that the individual market rates, if you're buying insurance as an individual, your rates are going to go up by 30 or 40%. We know that there are many people in the middle class, hardworking Americans, who are happy with the health insurance coverage they have right now. They're probably going to lose that coverage. They're going to have to go to an exchange or another company that their company is now offering. That doesn't mean that you lose the insurance you're happy with. It means you lose the doctor, potentially. Because you can only go to a doctor that's in the network on your insurance plan. Well, if your new insurance doesn't have that doctor, you can't keep going to that doctor. So there is a lot of reason to be nervous about it. Add to that, by the way, that a lot of the original supporters of this, for example, the labor unions, the Teamsters just came out 2 weeks ago and said they want this thing suspended or repealed because it's breaking the promises that it made in terms of the 40-hour work week, the whole argument I just made about full-time to part-time. And here's the irony. The labor union that represents the IRS workers is asking to be exempted from Obamacare, which is ironic because they're the very workers that are in charge of enforcing the law. So the people that are going to be in charge of enforcing Obamacare have asked to be exempted from Obamacare. There's a lot of reasons to be nervous about it if you're a supporter. But let me give you one more today, and that's the impact that it's going to have on our seniors. We haven't heard a lot of talk about this yet, but let me focus on one group of seniors in particular, and that is seniors that are on something called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage is a Medicare program where basically you contract with a private company to administer your benefits under Medicare. And how these companies compete for your business is that they add all sorts of value-added services. For example, transportation. My mom's on Medicare Advantage. And one of the reasons how they get her business is that in addition to good doctors, they actually will pick her up from home because she can't and doesn't drive and take her to her doctor's appointments. These are the kinds of benefits that Medicare Advantage offers. Here's the problem. Obamacare cuts about $156 billion out of Medicare Advantage. By the way, not to save Medicare, it throws it into the overall budget on Obamacare. Who uses Medicare Advantage? This is an interesting statistic. 40% of African Americans on Medicaid use Medicare Advantage. 53% of Hispanic beneficiaries who are on Medicare use Medicare Advantage. 38% of people on Medicare Advantage make less than $30,000 a year. So what's the impact of taking $156 billion out of Medicare Advantage? It's about $111 billion this year alone that you're taking out of the Medicare Advantage program. Well, that means, and the president would say, well, that means we're going to pay less money to these insurance companies. Fine. But what's the impact of that? Let me describe to you the impact of what it's going to be. First of all, you're going to see reductions in benefits, meaning a lot of these companies are going to have to save that money somewhere. And where they're going to save it is by reducing the benefits that they offer you on Medicare Advantage. So, for example, maybe there won't be any more transportation in my mom's Medicare Advantage plan. We don't know. Increases in copays, the amount of money that seniors are going to have to come up with every time they go to the doctor or the hospital. They're going to have to tighten physician networks, which means the number of doctors available to you is going to shrink. By the way, it means that if you have a doctor now that's been seeing you and they get kicked out of the network because they're tightening the network, you may not be able to keep going to that same doctor. So that disruption that it has. One study found that by 2017, seniors on Medicare Advantage could lose on an average about $1,841 a year. This is the impact. And let me tell you why this is pernicious, why this really hurts. Medicare Advantage, and there's some things about it that need to be fixed, but it's a good program. It has good outcomes. The fact is these companies want you to go to your doctor's appointments. They want you to be getting your flu shot and your vaccine against pneumonia and things of that. Why? Because they want you to stay healthy. They need you to stay healthy in order for the plan to work. And you see it in the results. Medicare Advantage patients have 39% fewer hospital readmissions. 39% fewer. You leave the hospital, 39% reduction in people that end up going back because something went wrong. 24% fewer emergency room visits. 20% fewer hospital days. Medicare Advantage is a program that works. I can tell you that firsthand because I see it in my mom's life and I see it in the lives of thousands of seniors in Florida that are on Medicare Advantage. Now you may ask yourself, well, if this is so bad, why haven't we heard any of this before? And the reason is because the insurance companies, because of a gag order, are prohibited from talking about any of this until you start getting your benefits letter, and they're coming. If you are a senior on Medicare Advantage, the chances are that soon you will open up the mail to the bad news that your Medicare Advantage that you have and that you're happy with has been changed in a negative way for you because of Obamacare. They don't know that yet because the companies have not been allowed to tell them yet, but they will have to tell them soon. And when they do, you will add one more concern that people should rightfully have about Obamacare and the impact that it's going to have on our people, particularly on seniors. And that's why, Mr. President, that's why my colleagues, I have become so passionate about this issue. One more reason why it's so important that we stop Obamacare. Now, you may say, well, what can we do to stop it? It's already the law. It's already in place. A lot of people have told me that. The answer is there is something we can do. And it comes as recently as September. In September, in order for this government to continue to function, we have to pass a short-term budget. I wish it were a long-term budget that was balanced, but it looks like it's going to be a short-term budget. And I think we should pass a budget. We have to. We can't shut down the government. I'm not for shutting down the government. The only thing I'm saying is that when we do this short-term budget, let's fund the government. Let's make sure Social Security checks go out. Let's make sure we're funding defense to keep our nation safe. Let's make sure we fund government, but let's not keep funding Obamacare. Let's not keep pouring money into a program that even the unions are now against. Let's not keep pouring money into a program that not even the IRS workers who are going to enforce this want for themselves. Let's not keep funding this program that's going to hurt seniors on Medicare Advantage. Let's not keep funding it. Now, I'll tell you right away what the blowback is. Oh, you're threatening to shut down the government. No, I am not. I don't want to shut down the government. In fact, the only people who are talking about shutting down the government are the people that go around saying, we will not support a short-term budget unless it funds Obamacare. Those are the people that are threatening to shut down the government. Their position basically is that Obamacare is so important that we can't possibly fund government without funding it. So if the government is shut down, and I hope that doesn't happen, because of Obamacare, that's an unreasonable position, especially in light of all the problems we know this program has. And this idea that unless we fund Obamacare, we must shut down the government, that is a false choice. That is not true. To my colleagues who oppose Obamacare, and let me just say that every single Republican opposes Obamacare, and I must share with you that there's a growing number of Democrats that are at least nervous about Obamacare and would love for it to go away in some way, shape, or form. In fact, one of them is the president. The president has actually delayed a major portion of Obamacare because he knows it's going to be a disaster. And so I would just say to those who oppose Obamacare, ask yourself this question. How can you possibly go back to the people who sent you here, to the people who are going to be hurt by this, to the people being moved from full-time to part-time, to the businesses that can't grow, to the individuals that are going to lose the coverage they're happy with and the doctor that they've gotten to know? How could you possibly go back to them, to the seniors on Medicare Advantage that are going to see their benefits reduced and their out-of-pocket costs go up? How can you possibly go back to them and say, I did everything I could to prevent these things from happening? How could you possibly say that to them if you vote for a budget that pays for this? This September gives us the last best chance to slow this down or to stop it. And once this law starts kicking in and it starts hurting our economy, we will start crossing some points of no return. And to my colleagues on the Republican side, I would just say, look, if we're not willing to draw a line in the sand on this issue, what issue are we willing to draw a line in the sand on? If we're not willing to fight to the end on this issue, what issue are you willing to do it on? Because right now I can think of nothing that is hurting our economy, I can think of nothing that's hurting job creation more than the uncertainty and the fear that this law is imposing on our small businesses, on our middle class, on our working class, and on our seniors. And I hope we will not let this last best chance go by. I hope we will take this opportunity to stop this law from hurting Americans, especially the millions of seniors that rely on Medicare Advantage for their health care. Mr. President, I yield the floor.